Hey guys, so in this video, I want to talk about the most important advice for improving at Fortnite. I got the idea for this after watching a recent upload of Bugha's called The Tips and Tricks That Won Me the Fortnite World Cup. It really wasn't what I thought it was going to be at first, but it was honestly one of the most insightful videos I've ever watched. Rather than listing off generic things he did to improve his building or editing, he actually went in depth on his frame of mind, his attitude, and thought process behind getting better. This immediately got me thinking, how could I encompass all the useful expertise and knowledge that pro players rarely ever share and put it into one helpful video? Because not only is this information extremely hard to find, but if the tips and tricks I'm about to share helped Bugha improve and become the literal best player in the world, then there's no doubt in my mind it will help all of you watching. So I think the only place that makes sense to start is with the first tip Bugha brought up, playing the meta. You've probably seen or heard that word used before, especially in popular video games like League of Legends and Overwatch. Something that is meta means it's the most effective tactic available. It's basically whatever works the best to help you win, regardless of what you wish would work. And then the meta refers to all the tactics put together into one collective unit. Some Fortnite examples would be the shotgun meta, which I've made a ton of videos on. Currently, the pump is meta because it's better than the tac. Another example would be a meta edit to make while box fighting. Since people expect the window edit, the new meta is to go for a top corner edit, which gives you a right-hand peek. Now, when you think about it, that's actually a meta inside another meta. Box fighting itself is meta, and then that specific edit while box fighting is also meta. The reason playing and conforming to the meta is so important is because no matter how good you are, you will 100% fall behind if you do not adapt. We saw this in the early stages of Fortnite when people began to build and everyone who didn't fell off. Then we saw this during Season 4 and 5, when the gameplay meta was to build fight and everyone still barely building got dumped on. Finally, we've been seeing this in Season 8 and 9, when the meta shifted to box fighting. I could name tons of pros and big name content creators who were once top players but never chose to adapt. Some of them still haven't and probably won't ever, which is why they've fallen behind so much in terms of skill. The thing is though, to keep improving and getting better in Fortnite, you not only need to be adapting to the new meta, but also be ahead of it. This was something Bugha repeatedly brought up when he talked about why he felt he struggled before the World Cup qualifiers. In his example, which is a little more advanced, he said he would always rotate straight to the center of zone for what's called the half and half circle. That is just another name for the fifth zone in game that will be half inside the current safe zone and half inside the storm, hence the name half and half. The reason he said it was a mistake was because that's not the meta. The meta, or the most effective strategy nowadays, is to take the gamble and sit on the edge of circle, hoping that the fifth zone will land on you. So even though center zone is the safer option, as you'll be closer to the new zone if you guess incorrectly, it's not the best or meta option in Chapter 2. There's just too little mobility and too high of a chance to get focused by other players. So in the end, staying edge zone is meta. With that example out of the way, the question arises, how do you stay on top of the meta? If there's so many different facets and metas to keep track of, how on earth is anyone supposed to remain in front of all of them? The simplest answer is that you need to be open and hungry to learn. Mongrel is an amazing example of this and of someone who is always on top of the meta. He's constantly VOD reviewing other top tier pros, being aware of what works and what doesn't work within his own gameplay, and analyzing all the new changes Epic and Fortnite throw at us. This is why he's been arguably the best player in the world since Season 3. There's never been one meta he hasn't adapted to quickly and continued to stay ahead of. Just remember, it took a lot of practice, dedication, and time to do it. My other tip for learning metas to help the majority of you guys who don't have as much time as Mongrel does is to watch my YouTube videos. I know I'm tooting my own horn here, but I gotta be honest, my videos are always on top of the meta. If they weren't, would they have as many people copying them? Probably not. Seriously though, it's my job to stay ahead of the curve and to teach you guys what I know. So if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe because Papa Jarian will always teach you the way. Moving on to the next topic Bugha brought up, and that is your mindset. The better you become at Fortnite, the more important your mindset becomes in helping you continue to improve. I'm sure many of you guys have once been or are currently at a skill plateau where you feel like you're not improving as much as you used to. You grind out aim training drills, you play creative for hours, you participate in scrims, you watch streams, you do pretty much everything I say to get better. Yet somehow you're not. As Bugha puts it, it all comes down to having a positive mindset and not a stubborn one. By this, he means that if you're not owning up to your mistakes and actively trying to fix them, then you're not going to improve. It doesn't matter how great your mechanics are or even how good your game sense is. If time and time again you're making the wrong edit or the wrong rotate, then obviously something is wrong. And this advice applies to everyone of all skill levels, including pros and aspiring pros. World Cup qualifier and Season X champion Young Calc said, "Failure to admit your mistakes is the #1 roadblock for most players. When you don't admit a mistake and blame it on something else like a bug or RNG, you eliminate any possibility in your brain that you did something wrong. Whether you think it subconsciously or say it out loud, a majority of people do have trouble admitting when they make a mistake or not. What you gotta realize though is that the tiny things you may overlook actually make huge differences in your improvement. We just don't like to admit it because it's easier to blame that on something else. As Calc says though, if you want to take your gameplay to the next level and go pro like he did, you need to learn that it's okay to take accountability for your mistakes. The opposite example of this would be someone like Tfue. If you guys have watched me for a while, you know I love Tfue. I'm legit a Tfue fanboy and I think he's one of the greatest players ever. The thing is, it's evident he's no longer the best. He's still a top player, just not the top. And this is not because he has not adapted to the new metas, rather it's because his mindset has been holding him back. Every single time he dies, he blames it on a stream sniper or his teammate or bad luck. It's never his fault and it's never because he did something wrong. The problem with that, as both Calc and Bugha said, is that as a result, he never learns from it. He queues right back up and continues to make the same errors and blame them on things outside of his control again. So as much as I look up to Tfue and respect him, that is the one thing I do not want you guys to take away while watching him. Every one of your deaths should be a learning experience, regardless of how BS it may seem. Did you rotate too early, too late, to the wrong side of the map? Did you misplay the fight or mess up an edit or build? Trust me when I say, the moment you start owning up to the things you did wrong and then go and fix them is when you'll finally start to see tons of improvement in your own gameplay. To finish up the video, I want to touch upon something that Bugha mentioned towards the end of his rant. I believe someone in his Twitch chat asked him how to find good teammates, and his answer was to focus on yourself as a solo player. This is something I've stressed for a long time, mainly in reference for how to get better, but I think it can be applied to many situations. If you want to prove yourself to other people or even to yourself, you need to be a good solo player. Solos are a testament to your mechanics, your game sense, and your total skill level. On the other hand, team-based game modes like duos, trios, and squads are not. It's so much easier to mask your downfalls and your weaknesses in one of those team modes compared to solos. That's why you see so many of those annoying self-promoters on Instagram or Twitter say that they're way better in duos than in solos. Guess what? That's because their getting carried. I know it's hard for them to hear that and accept it, but it's true. How are you ever supposed to learn how rotations work if your teammate is always pathing and leading the way for you? And how are you also going to learn how to play out fights and 1v1s if you always have 2 other people backing you up? The answer is that you won't. Solos is the best and the fastest way to improve your overall game. So whether or not you want to improve as an overall Fortnite Battle Royale player, or just show off to other people that you're not another little Timmy, you need to focus on yourself as a solo first, then go out, find a team, and improve as a team player. Overall guys, that is the most important advice for improving in Fortnite Battle Royale. If you found it useful or you learned something new, then do be sure to drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and to turn on post notifications. Thank you to everyone using code Jarian. Let me know if you used my code for any of the Star Wars stuff, because I'm not gonna lie, I forgot to use my own code. Feels bad, man, #ad. Otherwise, that's it from me, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.